only kidding with you. The amount of people, you know what? I've been streaming on this channel for 5 years. I've streamed on ketamine. I've streamed on pethidine. I've streamed on acid. I've actually streamed on acid. I've streamed on heroin. I haven't streamed on crack because you just do the crack and fuck off and do something else. I've streamed on the lot. And I fuck up a marketing job and I've had a week of accusations of drug taking. It's just absolutely incredible. Incredible. That was Richard Footgolf's suggestion, by the way. He said, just be keeping on your desktop when it starts. I said to him, the problem there, my friend, is I might get a bit comfortable. Like Big Balls Boby is down in the digital green room. Imagine him sitting down there just watching me going and thinking, I'm not sure when this joke is either a joke or funny or hello. And at some point just having to go. And occasionally check back and I'm still asleep and him going, yeah, this wasn't really what I had in mind. But the big bald one is here, so absolutely fantastic. And this is going to be, I'm confident this stream is going to be quite fantastic because it's a development of the transparent pill that I talked about this morning. And after going back to some of Boby's streams, because what happened was I'd been thinking about certain things and there was no one else talking about these things really. There is historically, but no one else really talking about it. And in a contemporary setting, or certainly in a YouTube, in a loosely defined YouTube movement, of which I have recently left. Much to many people's frustration. They called me a grifter for being a nationalist. And then when I stopped being a nationalist, of course, I was a grifter. So they're the kind of people you're dealing with. And it's been an absolute luxury being able to just drop kick them out of my life. I mean, they're still on Twitter all day long going, oh, look, here's a photo of Dangerfield from 2006 when he stuck his own penis in his ear. And it's just like, yeah, I might give these geezers some jobs. I might see if they want some work, just to help them out or something, because it's such a heavy show of sort of breakdown. These people are in trouble, and if I can help them, I think perhaps I should. So maybe I'll do a charity stream, and we can see if we can get these people some help. But let's get some housekeeping because I don't want Big Balls being left down there for too long. We'll probably do about an hour because I've done a stream today already and I've done a day's work. But we'll get the old entropy, or as for our French viewers, entrep. What would it be? Entrep. Yeah, we'll get entrep working. Look at it working first time.
French.
How it's working first time, and I am being very careful when I say that. How am I being careful when I say that? What I mean is I'm shitting myself that as I say that it's all going to go. But at the moment it seems to be all working fine and dandy. Fine being the feeling in my heart for my one true love, and dandy being my wardrobe. Absolutely nailed it. I talk like this to myself. Well, I am now in many ways. I'm sure already people have switched off. So we've got the grift sorted out. You can support this channel. Well, let's get some of that lighting changed. Let's I'm going to put a bit of sepia toning in that because I want it a little bit, let's take it back to the days of Sherlock Holmes, perhaps. It's very easily done. I have the technology. Let me just do that, and then I'll just do that. Oh, that's not Sherlock Holmes. That's Sherlock Purple Holmes. He made a joke about LSD again. Well, that's too much of that, and then a bit more of that, but then let go of that a bit. There you go. Oh, Watson, you are a blah, 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 blah. It's a 72% solution. Right, here we are then. We're back here. That's that done. Let's sort out Twitch. You know what? I get when Twitch is live, it says like there's 5 or 6 people. When I get my Twitch stream after effect, it sometimes says like you had 50 new viewers. So Twitch is working like a beagle. We got Stephen Campbell repping in there. No Rags though. Poor old Rags. It's almost like he's gone from riches to rags. I don't know what's happening with the fella, but hopefully he's all right. Maybe he just got bored being the only person in there. But that's what I thought was funny about it. But then maybe that's why he got bored. He probably thought, hang on a minute, I'm like some kind of baboon. I'm like Dangerfield's baboon plaything here. What am I thinking of? Madame Bovary's baboon, is it? Or something like that. That's the sort of thing Boby would know. He'd know about Madame Bovary's baboon. Or the correct title of the book I'm talking about. I'm sure he would. Anyone else in the chat know about Madame Bovary's baboon or Madame Butterfly's chimpanzee? Something like that. Right, it would appear we have sorted out our Twitch-a-rooney. So Rags might turn up after all. Maybe Rags is like, no, you sort out the housekeeping and then I'll turn up and make everyone happy. But at the moment, it's Campbell and Whitey. Hello there. Hello. Right, little bit of music. I'm going to drag a comb through my hair. I'm going to make a cup of tea because I need a cup of tea. And from that point onwards, good Lord, you wouldn't believe the mess I'm having. Wearing Cambodian skirts is not, when you haven't practiced it from childhood, it's not the not as easy as you'd at first think. Maybe I should do that a little bit out of shot. But then you've got a mirror over there. Right, hang on. If anyone saw my willy then, I'd just like to say I apologise. Maybe find a clinic that can enlarge yours and it won't be so much of a trauma for you. Right, I'll put the kettle on. I'll drag some a camera. There'll be no camera dragged over. I'll drag a camera over what's left of my head, and we'll have a little bit of music. Oh yes, it is going to be a little surprise as well. After I got a load of mouth earlier, we'll have a bit of this, and then I'll be back with you. See you in about 2 minutes, 10 minutes. See you in about 2 minutes, 10 seconds. How does that sound? Can't believe it, people. Full loss of combage. Full loss of combage. And because the missus has moved out, she's taken the old, the ladies' combs with her. Give me 1 second. The kettle's not boiled enough yet. But, oh, I thought there'd have been one lady's comb here. This is going to be the stream of the century. And I don't have a single comb. I reckon I'm just going to go like that. I'm just going to go like that. I'm going to put a bit of that in it. I'm going to go like that. I'm just going to let nature. I'm going to let nature style me. That'll do. That's got to be hot enough, hasn't it? Oh yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, there you go. Oh, there you go. Leave that in there for nowhere near too long. Good Lord, man. I don't know where my dolphin skinned comb's gone. That's often a worry. I'm a little bit obsessive with things like that because I know where that is and it has no reason to move. And we went through this with the scrubs before. If something you know where it usually is has gone, first thought, someone's nicked it. You've only had 2 people round your house in the last year, and yet your pair of pliers that haven't even been in the public view. Nah, so-and-so nicked them. I'll tell you who had them. Tommy nicked them. I glued my damaged flip-flop back together. Well, see, I don't think I'm going to risk that tonight because that could be all sorts of dramas. But the tea's got to be ready. So Boby, if he's still alive, I didn't mean that as in like he's 90 or anything. But he is getting on a bit. He looks younger than he is. He's got a few bags on the go. You know, a lot of liquid doesn't come out of where it used to. I think that's the perfect moment to bring you on. Looking good, Mr. Boby. How are you?
Thank you. Very, very well indeed. At the peak of condition. Thank you.
Are you getting an echo? Because I can get headphones.
No, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, but usually it's when you're talking. So you do Frello Jacques or something like that.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
Did you get anything?
No echo for me.
Brilliant. This is lovely. Because I don't like wearing headphones. It makes me feel like I'm not part of something. They separate me from the audio world, even though what they're actually doing is connecting me. And thus is the contradiction of life. So it's weird how you turned up here. I recently said to my channel, this channel's not a nationalist channel anymore. Fucking hell, man. It went boom. Lost about 150 subscribers, which I can't afford to because YouTube you can't find my channel. If you search my channel, it ain't there. You can put Chris Dangerfield in. Not everyone, not all the time, or they'll know they'll get sussed. But you're still going to get Rodney Dangerfield clips for like 50 pages. Enough clips of Rodney for you to get bored. It's almost like, it's ironic really, because I don't get no respect, so to speak, when they're when searching for Dangerfield. So yeah, they just wouldn't have it. And they accused me of grifting for not being a nationalist. The same people who 2 weeks before accused me of grifting for being a nationalist. It's just go out. And so they're out. Now, one of the reasons I did do that was because I don't need a target on my back. I don't need to have my hand in the air telling the monstrous Marxist press that I dare consider political ideas that other people don't like. You know, that old crime. And after they had me in the Times, sandwiched between two people who'd actually planned to plant bombs and blow schools up, they literally did. You know, they said I was what was it, grooming teenage Nazis. I started to have to rethink this because that's serious shit. That's serious. So I got rid of a load of content, got rid of anything with race involved. I'm very careful with what I say now. The channel has changed, mainly personal growth, how we can make ourselves stronger as a community, how we can get off of substances, how we can manage our lives, how we can get revenue streams, passive revenue streams, active revenue streams, things like that. We even have a regular yoga stream, blah, blah, blah. And all good. But I have been continuing thinking about the demographic future of Europe. And then I stumbled back on your channel. And this was only a couple of weeks ago. And I was thinking, hang on a minute. It's not just massive balls that we have in common. It would appear that Gavin is how would I say it? He's you know that opening scene in Apocalypse Now, he puts his fingers through the Venetian blind, opens it up, and he goes, Saigon. Shit. All this time and I'm still only in Saigon. You don't know it, dear. That's a face of not knowing right there.
Yes.
It is my favourite film. I don't like having favourites, but it's managed to hold its own, so I'm gonna give it that. I'm gonna let it have it. But I felt as if me and you had both fingered the Venetian blind of Europe, and
Yes.
and both seen something very similar about the next 5, 10, 15 years. And I was shocked. And then I watched your next one and the one before it. And then it started. Don't worry, people. Boby will be speaking in a minute. And then I started to. What you were saying started influencing my ideas. It wasn't a question of just identifying what you were saying. I started taking on board some of the things what you were saying. So if you could, and I know it's a bit of an ask because, you know, the video, there's a lot of videos and they're 20, 30, sometimes 40 minutes long. Could you somehow condense into, say, 10, 15 minutes where you are at the moment with the demographic situation of Europe and how it's been perceived over the last 4 or 5 years? You know, there's been a lot of typical kind of, I think you know what I'm saying, or maybe you don't. And just where you see it, how that's changed for you, what you see or where you see it going now.
Well, I don't think a lot's changed. My views, I think, for the last, 15 years have been more or less the same.
Sure.
That is, well, perhaps I can explain it best by doing it step by step. What's happening? Well, we're getting an awful lot of visitors, some of them more welcome than others, if you know what I mean. Okay. And why is that? Why is that happening? Politicians, well, the main reason politicians are doing it. Politicians, why are they doing it? They're doing it because we let them and because they want to. The reason they want to is because it's much easier to rule the people who don't have a sense of identity. So that's why politicians do it. And we are letting them do it. And then you say, well, we live in a democracy. Okay, they're not asking us. They're not coming out and saying, would you like all these visitors year after year? But they're saying, but we're letting them get away with it. Why are we letting them get away with it? It's because we're more focused. I think we are evolved to be to focus more on survival than on civilization. And what that means is financial survival. And in the big state, welfare state, that means making sure the welfare state keeps working, the economy keeps getting managed, the housing benefit check lands on the mat once a week, once a fortnight, and the money keeps coming out of the wall. So as long as the economy is standing up and you feel as though you can kind of make a living and survive, people are not going to rock the boat for the sake of civilization. So civilization, we don't survive in order to further civilization. We develop civilization in order to help us survive. So we're going to focus. Survival is the main thing. So the question then comes.
And Gavin, can I interrupt you then? Has it always been like that? Was it like that in Europe in the 17th century?
What was it? I suppose it. No, I think it was a lot different. So what I think of is that historian A.J.P. Taylor. He said that prior to World War I, the average Englishman's contact with the state was a visit to the post office. He had never had any other contact with the state.
Beautiful.
And yet you see that the intense devotion to country and patriotism that you see during World War I, 1 million marching off to get blown to bits in trenches under the Union Jack. I mean, there was intense patriotism, intense nationalism. I think if you had a man from the Edwardian era, and you showed him what we've become today, I think he'd be completely baffled. What on earth are you going on about? Of course, a lot of these people aren't exactly. You wouldn't call them English men and women. So that's what he would say. So I don't think it's always been that, but I think as the welfare state has gone on, we have become more and more dependent on it. We like it more and more. We think this is money being handed to us. I don't think that's the case. What I think you have is a lot of credit boom, credit bubble, concentrating wealth among the few, because that's what a credit boom does. That's what money printing does. It funnels and siphons wealth towards the few at the top. And in return, a little bit of that gets handed back in the form of welfare. And what we see, the bit we see that's visible to us, is the welfare coming to us and jobs and the economy getting managed. So that's what we want. That's how we get bought off. That's what Enoch Powell didn't see. In the 60s, he thought the English men and women will never allow for this. They will always stand up for their independence and their freedom. He didn't understand that people will get bought off, even English men and women. And we are allowing ourselves to be bought off by welfare, by economic management.
It's actually a classic from both sides, because the communists have always been let down by the working classes.
Yes,
historically, from the Soviets to the English, even Mao's China, Pol Pot's lot, all of them, all communist experiments, and I call them experiments, which is weird because you only needed one to show it. We don't need to test this again, I'm sure, but they did. But they expected the working people to do their bit, and they didn't. Every time they didn't. They were either lured into it, starved into it, tortured into it, or they died into it. So I think that's kind of worked on both ways, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, totally. And I think that happened with Lenin when he thought he gained power. He said, "Well, we're going to have an election," and the Bolsheviks got 20% of the vote. So he said, "Elections are bourgeois now; they're not."
Hey, this classic communism, isn't it? Our idea didn't work. Well, we're going to change that so that we do win. And this is what we're seeing today. We've just seen that perhaps in a rather large country across the water.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Carry on. I might interrupt you occasionally because there's a couple of things you're saying that are superb, and I want to grab hold of them.
Yeah. That's so. We are allowing our devotion to civilization or our concern with civilization to get bought off by our concern for financial survival. And that is why we are allowing the politicians to do what they're doing, visitor-wise, you might say. Now, so the question then is that process of getting bought off, is that going to come to an end? And that's why I'm actually optimistic, because I think it is inevitable that the welfare state and state management of the economy will break down, as it always does. that always happens. You look at revolutionary France, the end of the 18th century. The Soviet Union is the classic case, and the size of the state in Western Europe today compares with the size of the state under the Soviet Union. It's probably bigger because a lot of the Soviet Union was controlled by the black market, because it just had to be. It would have fallen over much sooner without it. But I think we are just living now at the very beginnings of the beginning of the prelude to the introduction to the end of the age of the state. And
likewise, that's exactly where I am. That's exactly where I am. For some different reasons, but certainly there's an overreach. There's many overreaches that, you know, for years they had propaganda. For years they had television and print. But the internet came around about 20 years too soon for them. And now they can't cope with that. And now it's actually like, look what's happening. And I'm with you on that. I think people are thinking, hang on a minute, you can't let this group go all around London ripping down statues, spray painting everything, and kneel to them. And then next week, the people who look a little bit more like the people who've lived there for hundreds of years and kick the shit out of them. It would appear to be somewhat unfair. It would appear the state is has an agenda that I don't quite agree with.
The way I see it is people see that, but what people are doing is grumbling about it. So people are going along with it, but grumbling about it. The reason people are going along with it is people are generally saying, well, as long as the welfare state keeps working. By the welfare state, I mean the things that all of us in the UK have just come to depend on. If I cut my finger, I go to the NHS. If I drive down a road, it's on a state-financed road. There's all kinds of local authority. My garbage gets collected by the local authority. I pay council tax. I mean, all of these are welfare services. And as long as that all stacks up, we will see the things you're talking about, the unfairness and the corruption of our own sort of culture and civilization. But we'll complain about it. What I think will make the big difference, what I think will make the change, it will be economic. Suddenly, if the economy breaks down, you will see the state authority break down, because if the economy goes broke, the state goes broke. If the state goes broke, the state can't pay welfare. If the state can't pay welfare, people will say the deal is off, because that is what most people think democracy is about. Choosing the benefits you want from society, what you want the government to do for you. If government falls over and goes broke, then I think quite apart from what I would see as a lot of rioting, you simply get people saying, well, the state has broken its contract with me. I don't need to have any loyalty towards the state. And you effectively, get what I think you will then get what you had in the Soviet Union, which is the state simply ceasing to function, which is that's not so rare an activity. That's rare in the UK, that's rare in England. That's certainly not rare in Europe. I mean, you get all kinds of like interregnums, discontinuity in Western Europe. If that happens, I think it is likely to be it's likely to last if you get that kind of breakdown. Because if people want the state back up again, the reason they want it back up again is so that it will start paying the welfare again and start managing the economy again. But if it's broken down, it's very difficult for a state to do that. It can't just get up and start handing out welfare. So, which is what I think people will want it to do. So, I think what we're looking at,
and also that takes one hell of a communal consciousness to say, okay, the shit's hit the fan, but if we all work really hard and we all have faith in this and we all work together, in 4 or 5 years' time, you'll be able to go and see a dentist again, and you'll be able to stop growing potatoes in your garden. So just stick with it for 4 years. Don't riot. Don't go out thieving and stealing other people's stuff. Don't go doing that. Yeah. I think it requires. It's such a stitch up to the people that have been putting their massive taxes into the bottomless pit of the International Health Service, to name but one. It's such an insult to those people, their fathers, fathers, and the daughters and the mothers. It's such a stitch up. You've got to be fucking joking. If anything, they're gonna cause it to collapse quicker.
Yeah. People will riot and say, "What the hell are we doing?" The main sign you get if there is a collapse in the power of the state, the main thing, the immediate thing that mushrooms, goes out of control, is crime. I mean, it's said that you know when the state authority isn't functioning anymore, or when there's a breakdown, because cars no longer stop at traffic lights, because that's where you get carjacked, and
Amazing.
crime just goes through the roof. Coppers.
There's a lot of theorizing on crime, where crime isn't created by poverty. You know, the idea is that crime is, you know, if people haven't got anything, it creates crime. But no, what creates crime is some people having something and other people not having anything. And that is going to be the transition period, where there will be some people who have got a bit tucked away, a bit of gold here and there, a bit of silver, the ability to trade, the ability to barter. And when some people have got something and other people have got nothing, that's when you get crime. And that will be almost immediate. Because people aren't going to get skinned at the same time. This breakdown of the economy isn't going to be an overnight, well, hang on, we wake up in the morning and everyone's skinned. Well, that was weird. Maybe we need to club together, you know, dig for victory and all that. No, quite the opposite.
Yeah. I don't think people are going to club together. I think people see a very fast rise in crime. You'll just see coppers saying, well, we're not getting paid, so I can make more money about crime. I know more about how to make money from crime because I've spent my career policing it. So that's another thing. You tend to get burglars graduate up to becoming home invaders, where they break your door down, cosh you over the head and ask you where your money is. They've heard you've got a little bit of silver or gold hidden under the floorboards. Where is it? Or the copper, he says, well, I can actually do kidnappings, or I can go and blackmail people. I've got all the connections with the criminals. That tends to, it's simply because it's not just people having something and other people not having it. It's that you can get away with it. There's no one. There are no police around. There's no one to stop you. So I think that will cause people to have even less faith in the state. They'll say, not only
and also there's a bit of a sense of agency, because there's not a lot to go round. So if you ain't nicking it tomorrow, it's going to be gone by the weekend.
Yeah. Nick it before someone else does. So which now that puts pressure on people to say, how the hell can I get protection now? How do I get protected? And then what do people do? What are the options? Well, you appeal to a biker gang. Okay, maybe the biker gang will help us, but you don't want to be ruled by a bike. A biker gang can't do it, because a biker gang, he may say, I'll protect you from outside invaders, but a biker gang can't run courts. And you need courts in order, like if I buy your car off you and I pay you a check, will you take it off me? Probably, well, you would in the UK, because you know you can sue me on it because there's a court system. But otherwise, without the court system, trade just grinds to a halt, because everything's done. It'll be done by barter or handing it over immediately. You won't get credit, and society depends on credit. So I mean, you have, if there is no order, what do people go for? Do you submit yourself to the local theocrat? How about some rogue general? Do you submit yourself to him? None of these things are very nice. None of them work very well. It's not a nice way to live. What I suspect, whatever people go for, I'll tell you what I think people will go for in a minute, but whatever people go for, I think there will be a sense of choice, voting with your feet, voluntarily submitting yourself to a system, to some kind of system of law, whether you're joining a system run by a biker gang or some renegade general, or whether it's something a bit more procedural, a bit more transparent than that. And the key thing, I think, is, and the question I'd ask to all the scrubs, all you listen, let's say the state no longer functions. It can't provide law and security. You've got crime rocketing all around you. You need protection. You also need some system of law so you can continue to get trade. continues to trade, to have a bank account, to be able to write a check to people or to use a credit card. In those circumstances, and you need to join a system. Are you going to join? And there are two systems on offer. Let's say the one run by the biker gang is, well, let's say there's three: biker gang, renegade general, and one offered by me. Okay, and let's say the one offered by the biker gang. Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Hello.
Sorry, Gavin, I was muted. You all good. It was all good.
All right.
Keep going. Biker gang. My mistake.
It's okay, but let's say there are two systems you can join. One of them allows a lot of PC multiculturalism in it, and the other one doesn't. Which one are you going to join? You out there, a scrub. Which one are you going to join? Now, I don't think any halfwit in his right mind, any idiot, is going to say, I'm going to join the multicultural system because it's nice, it's diverse, it's bustling and enriched. No, people are going to say, no, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to do it. What I'm going to be doing is paying more money in order to, if there is a police system, in order to pay for more policemen to police all of the extra crime that I'm subject to. So people, an ordinary scrub, an ordinary English guy is simply going to say, I'll join the system that doesn't include those people. And if you do that, what you'll get is a situation where effectively the populations separate out. I think I would say you get a change in attitudes, which I would describe as being an earthquake followed by a landslide. Because as people find they can choose, or they have to choose for themselves, they will choose to trust their security to people who act, think, speak, and look like them. Yeah. That's what you do. That's who you feel safe with. And as people do that, you actually find this is rather nice. There isn't 1% of the crime that there used to be. I'm not being told that I'm a vicious colonizer who's, the poison of the earth anymore. I'm not having to crawl on my belly to people who hate me. I'm not being subjected to crime every night of the week, and it's actually much nicer. And actually, I like what I have in common with my neighbours. I like the fact that we're similar, that we are the same. I like the fact that we have the same flags in our front gardens, and that we celebrate the same public holidays.
And that group of people that you've hired to protect you, they've got some of that about you as well. There's something inherent in that as well, which it gives more power to it, because I'm just not convinced this. When I see diversity in the police, I just see weakness in the police. It's just absurd.
It is. That's been acknowledged by the police in very roundabout ways. When it's come to corruption inquiries, they certainly have mentioned that, and it's been.
And I think upon that nub there is where what you've been talking about recently is where this whole thing now goes. It's starting to collapse, because when the police have actually had to put their hands up after telling us at a cost of millions, hundreds of millions of pounds, that diversity is a strength, and pictures of our police with their burqas and their turbans and all this. I'm picking figures out the air, and I'm going to pick a figure out the air which is probably less than it is, but 250,000 over the last 5 or 10 years. They've told us that, and now they're starting to say, about that, and that's happening across so many areas. Like the university system. There's not enough women at university. There's not enough ethnic people at university. Well, now there's too many women at university. They make up something like 70% of the population, and white English young white English boys are absolutely failing at school and are not going to university. And that again has hit a point where you can put as many posters as you want on the wall. When you break down the figures and it says white British 8%, you're like, hang on a minute, this doesn't seem to be what they've been telling me.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's where we are. That's where I think we are now. And that's why I call it the clear pill or the transparent pill, because we're now reaching a point where it's becoming so blatantly obvious that we've been lied to, we've been manipulated. To do that, they've demoralized us, they've atomized us, they've broken down our families, they've got rid of our communities, they've brought in visitors with very strong communities, held together by a very strong religion that isn't a religion, in fact, it's a complete political system. And this propaganda can't, people know when they're being propagandized. It's got to the point now where people are saying, I know what's happening now. I'm not a mad right-wing neo-Nazi anymore to know what's happening. They lied about that as well. You know, I send my school to kid. I remember I used to have this job. Yeah, don't tell too many people. It doesn't do my reputation much good. It was the only one I had though. But I used to have to go into universities and talk to them about going to university. And, you know, it'd be like, it's going to cost you, at the time, I think it was about £40,000. And depending where the school was, like when I done one in Camberwell, I said, look, if you were going to buy 40 grand's worth of skunk, you'd have a look at it, you'd try it, you'd have a smoke, you know. So if you're going to go to a university, go there, take a couple of days out and go there and talk to people and all this. And the reason I use that example of if you're going to buy a couple of kilos of skunk was I went to, now I'll tell you what, I had that job when I was about 31, maybe. It could be 3 or 4 years either way. And I'm nearly 50, right? And I went into a school in Camberwell. There was no white people, none. Yeah. And it was an all boys school, and I've gone in there, and of course I'm a white bloke. They've got no time for me at all. Yes. I'm a white bloke. I'm a teacher in their eyes, and they're on their phones. They're talking to each other. They're shouting across the room. They're not paying attention. That was then. That was what 15 years ago. Uh-huh. You know, this is you know, and so you're a white kid in a London. You can't live somewhere nice. You haven't got the money for West London. You're not living somewhere nice where you can send your kids to, you know, because you can send your kids to nice international schools where you've got all those rich kids from Dubai who have manners and they can speak 7 languages, because they do exist. No, you ain't going there though. You're going to the one where they're all from, Senegalese or whatever, Somali, and you're gonna. It's collapsing and it's becoming very apparent. That's my point.
Yeah, I agree. I think people are noticing that. They're getting really irritated. It is really degrading people's standard of life. It means that most people have to have in the back of their minds, am I going to get chased out? Am I going to have to move out of my neighborhood sometime? So even if they don't have to, people live in that fear. Who's going to move in? Am I going to get forced out? Do we have to, how much longer are we going to be here? It becomes part of the risk and reward ratio, which is not what you have. When you have an abode of people with territory, you develop a love for the territory and a sense of identity around it. And because it just becomes something fixed, and you can never move out of the same street for the whole of your life, probably. Well, certainly like my grandparents did.
My mother's still in the street she moved into before she had me and my brother, you know, and she had us in her 20s, early 20s. Still lives there.
Yeah, but I wouldn't mind betting that she occasionally thinks, what's happening around here? How much longer?
Oh no, she knows. She knows for sure, because there's a couple around the corner, friends of mine, and they know her very well, and they're moving for that reason. They can see the change, and they can see how quick it's happening. This isn't a slow thing anymore. They know that this has to happen fast now. Get them in, get them established, because if we do it too slowly, we're gonna fuck this up. And when I told my mum they're moving, she didn't say to me why.
Yes.
She just looked gutted. She just looked gutted because that's two less people that she can identify with as being part of her community.
And she probably knows he's going to replace them.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. And I'm terrified for her. I want her to move out here, but she won't. She won't do it.
Well, she likes the land. She's an English woman, wants to stay there. I get it.
Without a doubt, and she will. It's so here we are. Then we're at this spot where, you know, for the last let's say for the last sort of 5 years, certainly on YouTube, there's been a couple of magazines and things out. We've had a lot of people talking about what we're going to do about this. And the question, there's two questions that I always hear: when are people going to wake up? And the other thing is, when are people going to do something about it? Now, for me, there's no waking up to be done. Everyone's awake. You know, this is everybody. You don't walk out your house and see 20 people in burqas and think, oh, this is all normal. This is exactly where I wanted it to go for my children. You know, you've just had a baby, and when you got your girlfriend pregnant, 80% of your street was white British. By the time you've had your baby, it's down to 40% white British. You're not earning a lot of money. It's not like you can get out of there too quick. And you mentioned that earlier. I mean, for me, the reason I talk to the scrubs about passive revenue streams and having some kind of financial independence is, in our current society and in this transition period, it does give you a sense of freedom and a sense of choices. And if you need to get out, at least you can. You know, America have got it very different to us. America is so big and so vast, and you don't need a lot of money. You can get out of that ghetto. You can drive 8 hours in one direction, and you can buy a little wooden pad somewhere for next to nothing and see out your years there. You know, if you've got a little, you only need a little bit of money. But in England, to do that, in England, to get out of the ghettos, you're increasingly needing to be rich. I mean, it's like now it's like Hackney or the Cotswolds. I mean, what are you going to do?
Where I think I really like that phrase, the clear pill. That's where I describe it. Not necessarily red pill, white pill, black pill. Just see it clearly. Now, the way that I think I might differ from you slightly is, I agree totally. I think people get it, people see it, people know it, people understand it. But doing something about it is another matter. That's a different matter. I don't think people are going to do much about it until, whilst the state keeps operating, whilst the welfare state keeps functioning, while the economy continues to get managed, and is just about standing up. And so the question then is, how much longer is it going to keep standing up? And that's why I've tried to do these nerdy videos where I analyze economic trends. I think
they're brilliant. I'll put Gavin's channel link at the end of this video. You've got to watch them, because it's all this stuff, and it's all this stuff from a particular angle that I'm very naive about. So you can add it to all my nonsense, and you'll get a bigger picture, which seems to be quite a coherent picture of what might happen. And it's optimistic, by the way. I think Gavin's with me on this. This isn't us saying we're fucked. This is us saying it's sorting itself out, people. I certainly feel like that anyway.
I think you and I see eye to eye. I think we see it pretty clearly. What I'm saying is the pessimistic side is it is not all going to break down in the next 6 months. I give it 5 to 6 years, and
Sure.
I base that basically on looking at numbers from America, the Federal Reserve balance sheet, how many dollars there are in existence, the US deficit. The reason I focus on America is because the dollar is the reserve currency of the world. So the US federal deficit, so the debt in America, money supply, M1, M2, M3, money supply, they're technical things, but they're all in exponential curves going like that. And none of those exponential curves look like they're going to get past about 2026, 2027. So I think another 5 or 6 years' time, that's when things are just going to start cracking. I don't think they'll break down then. I think it'll take another couple of years. By the end of this decade, I think that's when things will really start to break down. But we'll start to see that begin to happen around just after the middle of this decade, 2026, 2027. Until then, I think it's get ready. It's just going to get worse, like weirdly, kind of bizarrely worse, with Biden coming out and talking about bananas are not what was it? And then everyone clapping and cheering and saying, "Great, isn't it so wonderful?" I mean, this sort of this just performing, this circus, it's just going to carry on. Isn't it wonderful? I've given you such diversity, and people are going to lap it up for another 5 to 6 years until they don't, and that change happens fast.
Yes.
When it does it, and they're not going to tell you. They're not going to say, "By the way, we don't think we're going to be able to pay you any more welfare in another 6 weeks' time. You better get ready to look after yourself." You suddenly find the housing benefit check doesn't land on the mat. You go into the council office, and there's no one in there. So and there's already a big crowd around setting fire to the council office.
They're stealing the tables, getting hold of anything they can sell.
Yeah, and maybe because there's a cleaner or a photocopying clerk who stupidly came in that day, that person gets strung over the lamppost in the crowd. What are you doing? I'm stringing up a photocopying clerk. I'm getting my revenge here, and he's dangling. And they set fire to his body. You know, that's the kind of thing that happens. And they're not going to tell you. The phrase I have is Jean-Claude Juncker. You know, the old drunken head of the
yeah.
Always drunk on his sciatica medication, just sort of fixing everyone. But that fella, his phrase, the phrase he's remembered for is, "When it gets serious, you have to lie." He says, "So you don't."
Incredible.
That's going to get serious. But so that's the point. Get ready. 5 or 6 years time. That's when I think you start to see. To put it technically, that's when the central banks of our societies, so the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, and the Federal Reserve, they start printing money and just spending it, so handing it out like confetti, which they're not doing.
Well, that's kind of what's happening in America at the moment, isn't it? It's just
what they're doing in the States is printing money and lending it to central government, who then spend it and hand it out. Now, that's there is still a loan involved there. So the Federal Reserve prints up the money, lends it, or buys a bond from central government, and then the central government spends that money. But what I'm talking about is, so that is print and lend, and that is supposed to be everything gets accounted for. That's not where you monetize debt. I think.
Hang on. So that's not quantitative easing.
Yeah, that is quantitative easing. Yeah, basically.
That is quantitative easing.
Yeah, and buying where the Federal Reserve buys mortgages, buys assets out in the economy. So it will buy up someone's mortgage, putting with printed dollars, or it will buy up government bonds with printed dollars. Technically, the way it works, it doesn't actually hand the money direct to the central government. What it does is the central government sells a bond to a big bank. The big bank then goes to the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve buys that bond at a profit to the big bank. It's a scam.
Because it's a racket. Because the mad thing is, the line is the Federal Reserve is as federal as FedEx. It ain't the government, is it? It's a private business.
Well,
the Federal Reserve. No, you don't buy that one.
It's under the thumb of the government. I mean, the head it's always appointed by the president. It basically, their job has always been to do what the politicians want. It is technically a private bank, but it's
that's my point. Yeah.
yeah.
But when you say the Federal Reserve, you don't think it's a private bank.
No.
You think it's something quite different.
Yeah. You think it's like Joe Biden's private, the next office over from his, like, I don't know, his little playpen where they put him with no soft toys in. So, but that's what you think. But what's going to happen is he's going to at some stage you'll get the Federal Reserve just printing money and just spraying it out into the economy. The helicopter drops. Just when that happens, you get inflation. When you get inflation, all the debt that's been put into the economy becomes unsustainable. So all the companies, people buying shares, the house owners who've got all these debts, suddenly the interest rate goes up 5 times. They can't afford that debt. They go broke. Then when they go broke, government has to come in and bail them out. So you get more money printing, leading to more money printing, which leads to more and more inflation. And very quickly, I mean, that just gets out of control really fast. And then you get, suddenly the state says, well, we're broke. Sorry, you're muted.
If I'm not muted at least 3 times in one stream, it ain't an authentic Dangerfield stream. Just point that out. We're on 2, I think, now. I've got a mate. He's not a chartered accountant, but he was an accountant of some sort, and he took me out to Venezuela, and we got to this hotel, beautiful hotel. I'd never really travelled. It was a gift to me for getting clean, but I hadn't got clean. I lied to him. So nice surprise on arrival. He said, "What do you want to do first?" I went, "Score some smack would be handy." He went, "You fucker." Anyway, we've got to the reception and they've got all our papers and our passports photocopied, and they said, "Yeah, can you pay?" And we were like, "Yeah, no problem." He's got out his card, put it in the machine. They went, "No, it doesn't. We don't accept this one." Put it in Venezuela. This was, but this was, good Lord, 25 years ago. Another card doesn't work. He's got about 5 cards, and it's not that there's anything wrong with his cards. They just don't work in this hotel. And they said to him, "You're going to have to go to the ATM. There's 4 of them there. There's like a row of 4 ATMs. A taxi driver will take you there, and through, put your cards in different ones, and you'll get the money." And we went back there with 3 carrier bags of notes to pay for our hotel for a weekend. 3 carrier bags. And they weren't just loose in the carrier bags. They were in bundles so that we knew how much was there. And I said, "What is this?" And he explained to me how the value of the notes and the value of the money, inflation just fucks. And it's like out here, they're getting rid of it. We've got a note out here that's worth 2 cents. It's a note. It's worth 2 cents. And it's and that's the kind of thing that you'll start seeing when you have this quantitative easing used to make up for the previous quantitative easing. Yeah. And that's when you're going to need an handful of dollars to pay for a fucking Coca-Cola, like a stack of them.
And I don't think that's coming for another 5 or 6 years, though. But when it does, this is where I think the scrubs, the community that you have around you, that you're building around you, or the communities rather that you're building around you, that's where it's helpful. I think people will look around quite sensibly, and they'll say, "I need law. I need some kind of law. I need a legal system, because I need to be able to live together and work together with people who obey the rules, because that way we can function. Good guys can function and produce together. And if the state's not doing it, then people have to do it privately." I think in your stream you're talking about, is it Laura and Mark setting up communities or working people?
Yeah, I think one of the great things that Mark and Laura are doing is setting up different communities all around the country. And some of them are like 3 people. Some of them are like 30 people. And, you know, they've been going just over a year. It's phenomenal what they've done. And so give that a year. I'm picking out there. I'd say most of those communities are going to at least double. So now you've got 60 here, and you know, there's a lot of them, and they're structured. They've got the treasurer, they've got this, they've got that. They're building communities with similar intentions. They all know what's coming. They've taken the clear pill, and they're setting up communities so that they can trust each other, they can feed each other, they can protect each other, and they can live with each other.
Yeah, and the key thing, I think, to that, when it gets serious, so when it ceases to be a bunch of friends and it's people organizing society, is when they adopt law. So, and that's when a key change comes. So you imagine, say, the Hartlepool branch of that little community. They set up the Hartlepool branch, and then they say, well, the state and the Hartlepool council, they've fallen over. We're now going to adopt a system of law. And let's say everyone does it. It's on my website, I've drafted a legal code that people can use. It's free, you can just download it. That's useful. It's pretty crude, but it's enough. It's enough for you to get some custard-faced pederast of a judge and kick him in the ass to apply it, rent him for a day, and kick him in the ass to apply it. Okay, but that legal code is what it is. Let's say the Hartlepool community group, they say, right, we're going to adopt this legal code. We're going to rent some coppers. If you join, it costs you 100 quid a year. That pays for the coppers. And we're going to vet you first, because if you've got a record, a rap sheet, as long as Dangerfield's dick, then maybe we don't want you. But I mean, that would be a long rap sheet. But anyway, if you got that, we don't want you. But and then the question, you muted again? You muted? You're going to tell me about your cock, aren't you?
Well, I'm going to say, someone with a rap sheet, as long as you're cock, you get straight in. It's just, you just walk in the door and it's everyone's happy.
That's right. They said, well, there's nothing there. That's right. So what you need is but the benefit is, if let's say your mum, let's say she's living in an increasingly enriched area, and you say, actually, move to Hartlepool, mum. You can mix. There's this system. It's like a mini statelet where it's all people like you, fellow English men and women. She might consider that. She might say, well, I don't want to go to Cambodia. But she might say, well, I'll go to the other side of the country because it's all nice English men and women.
People who remember things that you remember, people who lived through things you lived through, people who experienced your culture. And that's what culture does. Culture keeps people together. One of the things I've been saying recently, and it really gets me, and I've learned it out here. I've really learned it out here. Culture is exclusive. That's what it's for.
Yeah. Yes.
It's meant to be exclusive. When out here, they smash it. About at least once a month, there's a Khmer, which is a Cambodian person. They're, like we're English. They called Cambodians are called Khmers. They're Khmer Buddhist festivals. They wear their clothes, they play their music, they eat their food, they do their dancing or whatever. And it's exclusive. You're not meant to be part of it. They're doing it to say, you white boy over there, it's lovely to have you here, as long as you obey the rules, but you ain't part of this. This is us, it's exclusive. You're intentionally excluded. And it makes them strong. It keeps them strong. Whereas in Europe, especially England, Britain, oh no, that culture's it's exclusive. You're not letting people join in. No, we're not. We're deliberately not. No, you've got to include them. Yeah, but when we include them, the culture becomes pointless. Now you're getting it. Crack on. Go on, let them in. It's not Christmas, is it? No, it's the festive holiday. Oh, it's not meant to be. It's meant to be ours. And there you go. Drives me mad. Before you speak, Gavin, that's Gavin's website. I've just put it in the chat. That's not his website. That's his YouTube channel. So go and check out some of his videos, because it's all this kind of stuff. and a lot more. And when he knows what he does, what he's talking about, which he really does. A lot of you won't know that Gavin stops them building mosques. Gavin is the mosque buster. He goes in as a lawyer and says, no, you can't build a mosque here, because when they build a mosque in a town, it's a castle, and then no one can sell their properties around that in that whole town, because they know that 4 times a day there's traffic like you've never known. There's noise, there's windows going through, there's litter everywhere. And the castle acts, and the mosque acts like a castle, like historically it has. And so what Gavin does is stops it happening, and he does it very successfully as well. So you can get to his website, you can check out all that sort of stuff as well there. So there it is on the screen, but it's easy to find. Go to YouTube, type in Gavin Big Balls Boby. I don't know if you'll get it if you put big balls in, but there you go. Sorry to interrupt, Gavin, but I want people to see your other material.
Yeah, I won a couple recently, a couple of mosques.
Did you?
Peterborough call for prayer that went through the council committee twice. They voted on it twice and rejected it both times.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Because this is happening as well. This is also part of this. I used to live next to 2 Muslims in Soho. I got on really well with them. Nice couple of lads, actually, Biko and John. And Becco, but I deliberately called him Biko. And it was Jean or something, but it was Biko and John. And they said to me that in all the mosques up and down the country, the agenda, the first thing on the agenda is the change in the native people's approach to the visitors. People, and when they first started doing this 10, 15 years ago, oh, turn up, build a mosque, no problem. No, do this, do that. No, oh, just say what you want. Now they're not saying that. They're saying that people are getting wise to what's going on. They're changing their mind, and we wouldn't be so. Don't be so. What's the word? Oh, fuck it. What's the word? Don't be so flippant about throwing your savings into businesses in England like we did 10 years ago, because things are changing. They're noticing it as well. He said that's what they're talking about in the mosques. This is like on the agenda, and so they're noticing it as well.
Good. I'm glad. Well, I think that is nothing compared to what's coming. Nothing compared. I think that the change in attitudes will be I would say an earthquake followed by a landslide.
Well, that was my point, actually. As per usual, I went completely in the wrong direction. But it's that hostility, that sense of hostility that 10 years ago wasn't there because the media was behind it and all that. But that's not there anymore. The level of hostility is just growing and growing, because now, 10 years ago, people didn't know someone who'd been attacked or here. People didn't know someone whose street was 90% immigrants. People didn't. But now everyone knows someone whose life has been negatively and directly affected by these kinds of things. People are aware of it. And that's increasing the level of hostility. And that is part of that clarity as well. People are, they're not blind to it anymore. The BBC can say what they want, but people are opening their doors in the morning, looking out for their milk and going, oh, it didn't look like this on Good Morning Britain this morning, but someone's lying, and I'm guessing it's not my eyes. It's a weird thing.
I think that there are 2 other things. If I can just talk about which I think it's a bit more blunt than people having to notice. It's, let's say, if you are forced to make a choice, you have to choose to join a system in order to be able to live. And you can join one, it's nice and multicultural, there are lots of visitors in it, but unfortunately it costs you $5,000 a year to join, because you need a lot of policemen, because there's a lot of crime. So you're going to have a nice lot of visitors, you're going to have a lot of crime, so you're going to feel unsafe, and it's going to be very expensive to join. Or you have another one where you don't have a lot of visitors, everyone's like you, there's very little crime, And that means you don't have to employ a lot of policemen, so it's cheap to join. So instead of being £5,000 a year, it's 100 quid a year. Okay, and even if you haven't noticed, you've been asleep, you've been in a coma for the last 30 years, which one are you going to join? And then the second one is, suppose you have a situation like that. Let's say you have someone really, really PC multicultural, Owen Jones, let's say. And he says, how dare you live among people like yourself? How dare you? I would never do such a thing. I'm off to the enriched area. What he's going to find is suddenly that the proportion, the percentage of enrichment is so much higher. Like if it's a 50-50 split, suddenly you've got double the enrichment. And he's going to start saying to himself, and then so half the people in the enriched area, half the English people in the enriched area will go and join the ordinary English area. So he's going to find himself in an ever more enriched, increasingly enriched area. There will come a point where even Owen Jones says, actually, I think I'm going to go and join the English only section, the non-enriched area, so I can change it from within. That's probably what he'll say. So
yeah.
Even he will. So you get a kind of feedback. As people notice, actually, it's quite nice to live among people like yourself. The more people do it, the more they'll do it. That's the landslide side of it.
And also, you talk about the policing. The multicultural area, without doubt, will need that very expensive policing. It'd be ridiculous. The indigenous people, they won't need it. They are their own police. And again, I've noticed it here. I've been here nearly 3 years, Gavin. I have not seen a copper here who isn't a road traffic policeman after about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, ever. I've seen no coppers here at night, right? During the day, I've only seen traffic police. They don't need them because they're 98% Buddhist Khmer.
Yeah.
And so when a problem occurs, which it does because they're humans, you've now got your reputation at stake. Did you nick that offer there or not? So-and-so says you did. And then because you're a community, there's things at stake and you're policing it. You're policing it as a community. And it works. It absolutely works. The police in England, they're not protecting the people. They're protecting the law. And that's a very different thing. Yeah.
It used to be, the way you describe it in Cambodia, it used to be like that in the UK. There's do you remember Lee Kuan Yew, the fellow who headed up Singapore? He basically founded Singapore after World War II. He describes, I think it was at the end of World War II, like London's bombed out, it's full of rubble. He sits outside Charing Cross railway station and he just sits there for an afternoon. What he observes is there's an unmanned newsstand. And so what you do is you come along, you put your money in the box, you take the lid off the cardboard box, put your money in, take the change out and take your newspaper, and no one steals that money. And then the man is probably running half a dozen of these newsstands around London, so he goes from one to the other. And at the end of the day, he comes and collects all the money and goes home. And Lee Kuan Yew was watching this, and that's why he said, I'm going to make Singapore law-abiding like this. These English people, they know it, they understand it. That is unthinkable. That the reason... Don't tell me that a lack of diversity or that ethnic homogeneity, people being like each other, that didn't play a role in that. Of course it did. People would say it enables people to be hard on each other, to be tough on each other. And he went back in the 1990s and he basically concluded a civilized society can descend into barbarism. He's saying there's no way. It was on different planets. Those two experiences.
Well, it's a question of having skin in the game. If this is your community and your people, and your children are going to marry your friends' children, and it's all, you're part of this area, you're going to look after it, and you don't want things like that happening. And if you see someone sticking their hands up that thing trying to get the money out, there's going to be 10, 15 people over there in about 5 seconds saying, take your hand out or I'm going to cut it off. and because they're all part of the same project. They're of the same community. You're stealing from us. Whereas when you've got a multicultural society, you're stealing from people I don't even know their names.
Yeah.
So I ain't going to get involved.
Yeah.
So we've got to this point where, I mean, we touched on it briefly. The majority of our guests came for welfare, money, health, free dentistry, NHS, houses, and all that.
Yeah.
So all that starts drying up. Now, you're suddenly in a worse position than when you were back home, because at least when you were back home, you had community, you had culture. It sounds like where you wake up in the morning, which you're not getting at the moment. Well,
yes.
Yeah.
Not of anything. Yes.
70% of England isn't getting that. But you're getting the smells of your local place. You're getting your local bazaars and the music and the culture, and you're getting your whole big family. Your grandparents are all out there. Your nephews and nieces. There's not 9 of you stuck in a terraced house in Leeds fighting the Somalians across the roads because they're a different type. One is Sunni and one are the other lot, and all this. And you just suddenly think, well, what's the fucking point of still being here? It's hostile. We're skint. We ain't getting a penny. It's time to go.
I think it's tougher than that. I don't think it's simply a question of the welfare tap getting switched off for you. It's you suddenly find yourself cut off from the Englishman. So from English society, suddenly you are just cut out, you are separated out. The populations, you get a hard separation between the populations. So you don't have, it's not just welfare, you don't have any opportunity for employment. You can't sell anything. You can't run a business. You are stewing in your own juice. And that is, and what I think your average enclave, the sort of enclave that you're talking about there, if suddenly there's no welfare, suddenly there's no employment, there's no wealth coming in, nothing's getting provided. Suddenly there are no services, your garbage isn't getting collected, you don't have any water supply, electricity, gas, there's no drainage, so all your drains start backing up. That very quickly becomes lethal, like really, really lethal. And it's not a question of, I think it's nice about that. You just got to go because you're going to die. You just have to go. There is nothing. You are living in a typhus-ridden.
For sure. And good night, Stephen. Have a good night, mate. Alongside that, Gavin, even these numbers that are thrown around, 2066 or 2040, 2050, even those numbers, even if it was 2030, we're still the massive majority. It's not like us. It's not like one team and one team. It's one massive team, and then one set of, you've got Somalis, you've got these, you've got these, you've got these, you've got and they're all going to be into fighting as well. We'll be able to support each other because we will need each other. Yes, I do need a plumber. And even if you haven't even got any money, I'll tell you what I have done now. I grew a load of potatoes last year that you can have a sack of. Lovely. Blah, blah, blah. And you still got this half the population who can still work as a community. Whereas that other lot, like you say, there's no work, there's no one coming around to help them. And like you say, when I've seen it flood out in Thailand, in Patong, and the stuff that comes out of those drains, apart from all the blister packs and condoms, and that's only from one night, you can see it becoming like a science fiction in a week. Like you say, typhoid, a Legionnaire's disease. It is going downhill, and who's going to do anything about that? Are they all going to get together and start literally shoveling shit? Or are they going to say, let's go home?
Well, yeah, and if they come crying saying, Dangerfield's mum, it's terrible. If you don't give us money, we'll have to go home. What is your mum going to say? What is she going to say?
Well, she's going to say, you can have the money for the ticket, but...
Yeah, she'll say, goodbye, thank you. And then I would go to you and a bunch of other people. I say, look, give me £100. I'll go to the local multicultural landlord in the multicultural ghetto, and I'll buy a block of territory. And then when I've got it, when we've got it, it's worth a lot more money in our hands, and suddenly your £100 is worth 10 grand. So you buy it up. So there are all kinds of ways. But if your scrubs think this is fanciful talk, what I'd say to them is go round the average ghetto, the average enclave in England, and ask yourself, in this area, is it sustainable? Can you sustain yourself in this area if the welfare system is cut off, if employment is cut off, if garbage and drainage and water supply are cut off? Yeah. Can you survive? How do you survive here? And that's the question. It answers itself.
This is actually a great point, because I reckon there are a lot of people who call themselves nationalists, and for whatever reasons, tends to be youth more than anything. Yeah. But they actually haven't seen these places. They haven't seen what they're like already. You know, they're already a nightmare to live in. You know, what was it Ann Coulter's book was? How to turn America into a third world hellhole in 3 years. Yeah. And you know, she's spot on. She's spot on. These things they dis. England, or let's say Britain, doesn't appear out of nowhere. It isn't an accident. It's what happens when people get together and organize. It's when they work together and make things happen using their minds. And there's a lot of people, I think, that don't quite realize that society works like that. They just think that people sort of, you know, it's almost like a gift from God. You're given this lovely thing, but like you say, you know, even when I used to have to go down to certain places down the other end of London, right down where I used to live, down in Bethnal Green. Now I've had to go down there, not now for about 10, 15 years, but fuck me, man. Some of the places down there are just falling apart. You know, there's still some lovely places there, but it's just falling apart. And also, you won't get tradesmen going there. You know, I'm fucked if I'm putting my van with all my tools there. Oh, 1 o'clock, you want me to come in the morning? Oh, that's when the job is it? What a surprise! How many of you are going to be there? 30, keeping an eye on my van. Yeah, all right. Yeah. See you next year.
Well, what are they going to pay him with? He'll say, no, I don't trust it. I want money up front. And
they'll have that back off you. So what happens, Gavin? So what happens? So the welfare system breaks down, and as you said, and I think that was very important, it's not just welfare isn't just the dole, it's also your dentistry, your street lights, your policing, and all that, and even the policing. Cressida Dick she's a social justice worker. It's madness what she's doing. People are watching certain ethnicities getting things first just because because of their ethnicity. Yeah. You're gonna be prioritized. You're gonna get more policing because there's more trouble where you are. Well, why is there more fucking trouble where they are? It doesn't work that way round. We need the more policing to protect us from them. How come they get the more policing to protect themselves from themselves? If they want to chop each other's arms off, that's up to them. We ain't doing it.
Yeah. So how I think it goes, welfare state breaks down. The state breaks down. Then you get a lot of disorder. People decide, I need order. And the way you get order is through law. People adopt. Communities, people say, well, let's adopt a legal system, let's club together. I might go up to people and say, I've got this legal system, join up, sign up, it'll cost you this much because that's the admin expenses to hire coppers and courts and bailiffs, but then you can trade. And then other people are going to want to trade with you because they know they can trust you because you're subjected to a legal system. And then the question is, if you have something like that, someone else comes along offering, Owen Jones comes along offering his multicultural, diverse, bustling, happy hippie utopia. Are you going to join that? No, you're going to join my system because my system will say, no, it's only for English people, thank you, because it's for English people, it's going to be much nicer. And also it's a tenth of the price to join. Which one are people going to join? And that way, you will inevitably get a hard separation of the populations. When people are forced to make individual choices about their lives, when you go from the overarching state, the coercive state, through people making individual choices, this is what I want to sign up to, people voting with their feet. That will separate people out because people say, I don't want these visitors, I don't want this multiculturalism, I like people who are like me, and I enjoy being English. I enjoy the culture that arises out of it. I like the life. That's what people are, and it's cheaper and nicer. It costs me less, and there's less crime, and it's wealthier, and it's a lot nicer, it's a lot cleaner and friendlier. And then you get that hard separation, and then a lot of the visitors who've come in, they will eventually go back, and the numbers will get reversed. I would say they'll get reversed more than 99%. I would say, in general, if you apply the 80-20 rule, you know, that Pareto principle, that 80% of the benefit comes from 20% of the people. Well, I'd say, as regards most of the visitors, you're looking at 20% of 20% of 20%.
Sure.
Supplying any benefit, and that's less than 1%. I've done that. 20% of 20% of 20% is less than 1%. So, but basically, you'll get more than 99% of all those visitors, I think, just going and voluntarily, without requiring civil war.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary. I'm with you on that. I don't think it works. I want to put this to you. It's rather unnecessarily aggressive. We can just have a conversation. You don't have to agree. And Jim, I'd ask you to be a little bit more respectful next time, but it's a fair question. Jim says, we're not going to go from a first world to a fourth world. This all relies on the hyperinflation, economic collapse, wet dream. So I think what he's saying is basically he's saying that the economy is not going to collapse. Yeah. It's a wet dream.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I've done a couple of videos saying, I think there's one saying, could the economy really collapse? If you look at, perhaps if I look at what he is saying, that was said before the French Revolution in 1789. It was certainly said in spades before the fall of the Soviet Union. So in 1991, the Soviet Union officially disappeared, but it started to collapse in about 1989. Okay, that's when it really went wrong. And prior to that, right up until then, all the American academic textbooks, they showed the Soviet Union outpacing America in economic growth.
They were saying that the perestroika and the other one was going to lead the Soviets to a boom, an economic boom.
Before that, if you look at an American school or college textbook, it would show America growing at that rate and the Soviet Union a bit poorer now, but growing at that rate. So it was always within about 5 years' time, the average Soviet Union citizen will be richer than the average American. It was always saying that. And then suddenly it collapsed. Nobody thought that the Soviet Union was going to break down. I mean, there have been loads of, and the lesson from history is that when the deficit, so the government's annual deficit, so the government's credit card debt for that year reaches more than 20% of GDP, at that stage, government breaks down. That came from, I've done the research I've done on that. That came from one of the Soviet economies. He tried to get Gorbachev to reform, and when the Soviet Union collapsed, he documented it all, and he said it collapsed when the Soviet Union's annual deficit reached 20% of GDP. And he said, does this happen in other countries? And he looked at Latin American military coups, and he said, yeah, you get military coups in Latin America at the same point, when your annual deficit reaches 20% of GDP. The similar thing happened, I found, in the hyperinflations in Central Europe in the 20th century. Basically, That's the point. And the question is, can we get to that? At that point, suddenly people say, Jesus, everything's broke. All the assumptions I've made, they don't apply anymore, like they did with the Soviet Union, like they did in Central America. I think it could get further than that because people have so much faith in the dollar, not so much in the pound, but they have faith in the dollar. But it's last year, for the last 12 months, the annual deficit in the States was, I think, about 19.5% of GDP, huge. So almost hitting that critical point. I would have thought that the critical point with the dollar will be about 30%. But you plot it out, you look at the annual deficit, you look at the increasing debt rate in the States, and you just look at the curve, you plot the curve. It's a nice exponential curve. At some stage, that breaks down. When that breaks down, the whole financial system, because it's everything balanced against each other, it's called like a house of cards, the way it's all balanced against each other.
Sure.
Then you get breakdown, you get businesses breaking down, and then you get governments having to print. They just have to print in order to plug the hole. And then when they print like that, then you do get hyperinflation. You're not getting hyperinflation now. I'm fully aware of that. And I certainly don't think there's a breakdown next year. But before he says, so I forget, was it Stephen, the gentleman who just...
Jim Bob.
So you think it might not, it might look like it can't, it's not going to happen, but that has been said many times before, and the break point that has been experienced many times before is one that we're a lot closer to than you might. It's one that we're definitely headed for. So
is that video called "Could the Economy Really Break Down"?
Yep, that one. Look at
that video, "Could the Economy Really Break Down?" I've just put that link in the chat. So if that's one you're interested in, I've just put that one in the chat. That's Gavin's video, "Could the Economy Really Break Down?" And so if you're interested in that, have a look at that, because that is really interesting, because I especially like it when you've got historic, when you've seen it before, and you can look at the numbers, and when it gets here, this happens, and you've just off the top of your head, you've given us 3 or 4 examples of when that's happened. I'll tell you a weird one on that. It's a slight tangent, but all empires end, and fortunately Google will be one of them too. But there's Camille Pagula, bless her, the only feminist anyone actually likes.
Yes.
I really like Camille. I would still tap her. It's bizarre. She talks about a few signifiers of empires ending.
Yeah.
And transsexuality is one of them.
Yeah.
You know, she goes right back to Rome, and
Yeah.
an explosion in transsexuality was one of these things that has been seen at the end of like 4 or 5 empires ending. Another one is celebrity chefs.
Gosh.
Yeah, and it's this idea of decadence, I think. You know, we've had it so good for so long, and we've really forgotten what it takes to maintain the situation, that now we've got people who cook, and we laugh at them and like them, and they're celebrities. It's and we've got them now. We've got I've got 3 celebrity chefs in my phone book. I mean, that's not because I'm famous. It's because there's so many fucking celebrity chefs. It's absurd.
Well, there is one take on that I think is probably right, is that sort of decadence and luxury and frivolity and excess, that is a feature of credit boom. Because when you get credit boom, you get a lot of, it seems like there's much more money out there.
Sorry, Gavin, did you say credit boom?
Credit boom, yeah. Well, that's where you have a lot of lending. So banks lending to other banks, lending to other banks, or a bank lends to this guy who banks the money, or lends to this guy who banks the money. It seems like there's a lot more, and you get the money multiplier really, really roaring. So it seems like there's a lot more money and a lot more wealth than there is. The economy looks like it's going very fast, which is what central banks are doing by printing money, doing quantitative easing. They are stuffing money into the economy to get people to lend it and spend it and lend it and spend it, to create that illusion that there is more wealth than there is. So you get this, and it feeds on itself until it breaks down. It's like a drug habit. It really goes and goes and goes. It feels great whilst it's going, and people think everything's going up, everything's rising, like they did in the 20s. And it was said that everyone should be a millionaire by the time they're 40. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, in the 20s they were saying that, and on the back of that, you get just frivolous spending. People think, well, there's no end to the money.
They ended up in trenches.
Sorry, say it again.
They ended up in trenches.
Yeah.
They nearly got their 20 mil.
Yeah, precisely. It just, and that's where we are now. We are in a credit boom now, and it seems like it's never going to end. The government will print up more, and the volume of money just keeps going. The stock market keeps rising, and house prices keep rising. We're all rich. What can we spend it on next? And that kind of decadence, that keeps going until it doesn't. And it seems like it's the new normal until it stops. And then when it does, people think, Christ, why did I think this was natural? Why did I think this was normal? It's not normal. And that's where we are at the moment.
This is something I've been talking about over the last few weeks about the new American administration. What we've essentially created is a hyper real system of government, because it's an illusion. They're telling you stuff that's not true, and people know it's not true, and yet it doesn't seem to matter. That's again a new level. People are so demoralized that they look at A, the government are telling them B, it doesn't match up. I mean, look, for Christ's sake, they've got that geezer, what's his name? Chris Hallwell. He had an affair with a Chinese spy.
Yes.
He had an affair, someone will know his name. He had an affair, and not like overnight. It wasn't like a quick bunk up. She lived with him, and they were on and off like for months. Fang, it was that one. And he has now been promoted in the Department of Homeland Security. He works for them.
Yes.
It's just like, are you joking? And he's like, we'll keep it. Swalwell, that's it. Swalwell, Eric Swalwell, and she has got photographs of that man being bummed by her strap on. She's got him. As soon as she needs to exploit him and say, well, hang on, you might not want to make that decision. How the hell does he farted in an interview in an interview once as well, didn't he? But how the hell does someone who had a long sexual and a long relationship with a proven Chinese spy, how does he get to work at Homeland Security? It's absurd. And then the thing is, I see it on Twitter. He's got a picture of him on there, and he's all serious. We will defend this country, blah blah blah. Oh no, you've been fucking a spy. It's and all the Bidenites underneath are like, yes, Eric, go for it, Eric. You're the man we need. I remember one of them was something like, I always picture you with a baseball bat ready to knock it out of the stadium. And I was thinking, the Chinese spy.
Yes.
Fucking absurd.
Yeah. It's out of touch with reality.
And that's why I was saying that. And so you've got to this point now where they're serving illusions. Everyone knows Joe Biden is crackers. He's when you win an election, while I've been adult enough to have a fair amount of grasp on what a general election means. When someone wins, they are in the public realm as much as possible. Let's ride this out as much. Let's just get as much exposure out of this as possible. Sound bites, scripts written, say this. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? we've barely seen him. He just sort of suddenly appears and church people, and then just walks off again, and everyone's like, yeah.
Yeah, so and so. This what's his name from The Thing? You know.
Yeah, The Thing was brilliant. Wasn't it?
Oh right, what was that about? Yeah.
What was the one the other day when he didn't even know the name of the White House? He said we've got some bloke over at that place, and you know he's got someone sitting in front of him going, White House, it's the White House, it's the fucking White House. Wake up! It's so we've got so many things happening at the moment. We've got a failing media propaganda. You know, YouTube videos, not only the big ones, but even the likes of yours and mine, all these little ones.
Yeah.
We're getting more views than the mainstream media. The mainstream media, the propaganda wing of the globalist machine is being outplayed by people sitting in rooms with 70 quid cameras. That's happening.
Yeah. It reminds me of again the fall of the Soviet Union, where they had leaders just like Biden, didn't know what day of the week it was.
That's it. Yeltsin comes to mind.
Well, not Brezhnev. I don't know if you remember Brezhnev.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, the story with him is there was a Soviet spy show. It was called the Soviet James Bond, but it was a bit like The Saint, you know, or The Persuader. I don't remember those. Yeah, and there was this actor, and Brezhnev. He said, "I want you to bring Roger Moore into my office so I can give him the hero of the Soviet Union." And all the advisors said, "Mr. Brezhnev, he is not really a Roger Moore. He's not a real spy. He's just an actor." No. Yeah, he said, "No, don't talk rubbish. You bring him in." "No, I insist." So they brought this guy in, and a couple of KGB heavies got this. The actor talked about it. He said that basically they took him and outside Brezhnev's room. They said, "He's going to give you this medal. We're going to take it off you when you get out of this room again, and you don't tell anyone or your whole family.
And you'll be dead before you get down the bottom of that road, mate. Your life's over." Yeah. I bet they put a bullet in the back of his head. Of course they did. Fucking hell.
You could say when Brezhnev said, "Well done, Mr. Spy. Here's your hero of the Soviet Union."
Amazing.
That's what it was ruling. It was ruling the whole Soviet Union. And I mean, I can just see, but Biden's going to do something like that one day. You can just see it.
Well, he's already mental. He's already, this is a man who said, we support China. He said, we support China and we want to help them. Whereas China have said, we want to dominate the world. Yes. I mean, those two comments don't sit well with me. No. We want to help China. Okay. Yeah. So, right, we've come to the point in the, we've gone on for so long, but I want to ask you one last question, and this is the big one. So what happens? How does it play out? The money's run out, the economy's collapsed, there's communities forming, there's they call it a super majority of ethnic British people who are successfully forming communities. There's a multicultural enclaves and ghettos that are not doing very well. Mm-hmm. What happens from there on in?
So if you imagine from the point where the populations separate out, so welfare state goes down, people need law, people club together with people they like to create law security for themselves with people who are like them. So you get the hard separation out of the populations. I think you'll see English populations really surviving and thriving and liking it and self-consciously saying, we're going back to the way we were. And I think
that's key. They will be feeling like, this is like 1970. This is like the 80s again, isn't it? This is like how we used to live.
Yeah, and buying three-piece suits and that kind of thing.
Yeah, don't knock that. I do videos about that all the time, you cheeky bastard.
And you won't be the only one. That'll come and people say, this is how an Englishman dresses. That kind of.
This is what I'm saying. I've rather embarrassingly got a T-shirt on, and you've got a rather nice bit of schmutter on. But the classic English style is English culture. That people think it's Italian and French. It's not. It's English. The Italians nicked it from us. And wearing three-piece suits is very English. It's our culture. Yes, get a nice tie. Yeah, get a nice tip. Get a nice pair of handmade shoes, because we've got a bloke up there who makes them. And he's got something he can offer you, and you've got something he can offer, and you've got all these. We get a nice local. We go away from the globalists and the corporations, and we start going local. People are making things by hand again. I've got pairs of handmade shoes that have lasted 13, 14 years. Because I've looked after them. Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that, because some of my people don't like it. They don't like it. I say to them, you have had polyester sports clothes imposed upon you and your children, made by corporations that are using Asian slaves, and have made adverts where they've outright said they hate you. They don't like white people, and they have imposed their clothes on you. And you're laughing at me for saying, why don't you wear English clothes? Why don't you get a suit made? I'm so glad you dropped that in. Anyway, carry on.
I'm a Cheney man myself for shoes. Cheneys. Anyway.
Oh, I'm Crockett and Jones.
Oh, well, they're a bit light-footed for me. A bit light-footed. But anyway. So we.
Yeah, but so am I.
I believe it. So if you get I think you'll get that hard separation out. I mean, really hard. So in this area, it's all English. In this area, it's all visitors, all enriched, because no, you won't be able to survive in an enriched area if you're English, because you'll just get preyed on. It'll just be misery. You'll just get out fast. I think
the funny thing is, it'll be all the liberals who've been yapping about how good that was for years. I wonder how long they hang around.
Well, they like it as long as other people have to endure the enrichment. If they're having to endure it, and they're having to endure it at like 3 times the concentration, they're going to suddenly find, actually, I don't like it so much anymore. They'll find an excuse to leave. Okay. Yeah. And when you get that hardened separation out, though, the visitor areas, the enriched areas, I think they'll fall really fast within a few months, becoming completely unlivable. I mean, drains backing up in the street, cooking, pulling up the floorboards in order to be able to build a fire to cook on, and the whole house goes on fire, and no fire engine comes to put up with it. Your children getting sick, and there's no doctor to take them to. What do you do? And suddenly someone like perhaps you Dangerfield, comes along and says, here's an airplane ticket and £1,000 in cash, £1,000 or $1,000 in cash. Give me a house. Your house is worth nothing, but give me a house, and you can go, and there's £1,000 in it for you. They're going to take that. They're going to take that. If you're living in some
stage, they will. At that stage, yeah, I think you're right.
But so I mean, if you're living in some terrible ghetto, I mean, you can't. The price of your property is worth nothing. So effectively, you get bought up and you go, and I think it will end up with 99% de-enrichment. So reversing the process of enrichment. Over a period of a few years, which is still very, very fast.
It's gonna the definition of the word enrichment is gonna be really funny to see that change, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
I'm gonna ask the scrubs. We've had 248 on a scale of 1 to 10, scrubs, with 1 being not buying it, and 10 being, I reckon this outlook is spot on and very likely. Can we vote now on what me and Gavin have been talking about? Breakdown of the economy, breakdown of the welfare state, a pulling into communities of people like you, a ghettoization of very small communities of people like themselves. 1 if you think it's pie in the sky, and 10 if you think that this has actually got some legs. Okay, this is interesting. All very high. There's a couple of very low ones, but they're the people who sit around throwing crisps at the wall. Almost all very high, actually. That's excellent. Yiz is up there with the 9. Al Capone's giving it 110 and just wants to know when. Moslav is on a 9. This is really good. John Francis is just
Jim Bob, and he said 3, and he gave me 3.
yeah. He's he's not happy. It's still not bad out of 10 though, is it? It's it's still 30% chance of it happening.
Yeah.
But
I like the tough questions like Jim Bob's. I like those.
yeah, no, certainly. I just like a little bit more respect, especially when I got a guest on.
Yeah.
Worst channel on YouTube. Thanks for the donation. Says, weirdly, he said Gary knows who he's talking about. I mean, who are we talking about? Glitter or my guest, Gavin? That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Thank you, though, mate. Appreciate the donation. Chrissy's chucked another 2 bond and put a 10. That's all exciting. ST911, absolutely beautiful. Says, I don't throw crisps. I just can't see the police letting it happen. The police have finished. Have you not seen the police running away from gangs in London? That's already happening. They go in to stop a riot and they get chased home. That's already happening. The police I'll give the police 2 years.
I did another video on that called Could the State Really Collapse? Well, could the economy really break down? And could the state really break down? Something like that, where I deal with the numbers of police. It's just not big enough. There's not enough coppers to keep order.
I won't bother sharing that one because it's on. I've shared. I might as well because I've got it up.
You don't have to.
No. This is the one that Gavin's talking about where he mentions the police. I've just put it in there. But like me, because I've been thinking about this kind of stuff, when I had a little look at, because I try not to look at a lot of this stuff anymore because it's all. I don't need to see my people getting the shit kicked out of them. I don't, what they call it, rage porn or something. I just can't be doing with it. I watch very few nationalist channels anymore because I know it. I get it. I know what's happening. I try and watch stuff where I'm looking at proactive, solution-based stuff, not reactive, complaining stuff. Just a couple of we've done that one. Eric Pug, hello Eric. Zero Hedge needs a transgender celeb cook index to warn off collapse. All right, send her an email. I'm sure he'll do it. Yeah, the police took a knee. They done it, and then they got the shit kicked out of them by the same people. I mean, did you see it, Gavin, when it happened?
Yeah, I like that.
It was just absurd, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a video, the Keystone Cops music playing whilst they're getting kicked up the arse.
Hello, Marcus Aurelius. Long time no see. Good to see you. Been a while since I caught a danger stream, but this has been great. Thanks both. Scrubs rising. Nice to see you, Marcus. Yeah, you caught a good one. I'm going to try and get a few more guests on. I've had so much work on lately. It's made me sick. It really has made me sick. I fucked it up. And then I had a 4-week project to do. The first 2 weeks I fucked up. So in the second 2 weeks, I had to do the first 2 weeks again, plus all the other work I have to do for the business. And I was getting like 9, 10, 11 hours sleep a night. Now, people might think, what? That isn't sick. I'm a 4-hour a night sleeper. So to suddenly be getting 14, 15 hours a night, something went wrong. And I'm only just coming back. There's a stream I've done the other night. I was falling asleep at the beginning of it and people were not happy about it. My girlfriend's calling me. Hang on. Let me just accept that. This could be awkward. Darling, I'm streaming. I'm making a video, love. I'll talk to you afterwards. I'll give you a call. You can't see me because I'm using the camera for the stream. All right, see you later, darling. Love you. Bye. I'll tell you what, though, Gavin, or Gary, it's Gary now, by the way. Living out here for nearly 3 years in a place which is 98% ethnic Khmer Buddhists, it's just a different way of life. It's just they don't have a drinking culture because that hasn't been part of the demoralisation. There's pedestrianised areas all over the city, and you can go up there. I take my girlfriend up there. There's one just over there by the monument. You can go up there midnight Friday, and there'll be maybe 500-600 people just sort of sitting around on like little, I don't know, fuck knows what they're called, just those things you unroll and sit on. No one's drinking. No one. There's not gangs of people going for Christmas time. There's no fear that me and her are going to get in any grief. I've had no trouble here. I am at 6'2". I am taller than most of them, but I've had no trouble off any of them. When I try and tell her and her friends and her family about the things that are happening in Europe, it's not that they don't understand it. They don't understand why you'd let it happen. They just cannot conceive of any of it.
That's the big question that most nationalist people don't answer, because it's too embarrassing. Why are we letting it happen? So people come up with a lot of conspiracy theories. Oh, the politicians, they're against us. They're keeping us silent. They're conspiring against us. I don't think that's the case. We know what's going on. Everyone knows. There's a certain religion that's not very nice, that you don't have to know anything about it to know everything about it. I mean, just a tiny bit of contact with it. You know all you need to know. And it's simply, we are letting it happen. And that's the question. Why are we letting it happen? We're letting it happen because we're focused on survival. It's not that we're all shallow and materialistic, but we just want material survival first. That's what
yeah. This is what I always say. I mean, I was like, she just told me she loves me. I was 8 years old in 1980. So I grew up through Thatcher. I grew up through, even my school teachers, even those lefty school teachers were saying, don't get married, don't have children, make a load of money, get out there, fuck a load of women, travel the world. You don't need all that shit. This is an old England that, this is a Union Jack, Winston Churchill. And I bought it. I bought all that. I went to art college. I had no interest in a family. And I've done a lot of stupid things in my time, lot of stupid things. And I don't have any regrets because I haven't got time for regrets. They do nothing. But the one thing that I am bitter about is that I was taught out of having a family. It happened about 2 years ago. I was in my Soho flat. I've made it. I was in my Soho flat, beautiful flat just on Lexington Street, just next to John Snow pub. I got £4,000 suits, walking around in time of my life. Knew everyone in town, could get into all the members' bars. No, you've made it. And then Christmas Eve, I've got a full-length Manila jacket on. The old full-length 2 pockets. Nice. From New and Lingwood, you'll know New and Lingwood, bottom of the Burlington Arcade.
Yeah.
Got that on, and it's like a flasher's coat, really. And I'm standing outside a brothel, and it's 10 to midnight, and I go in. And I'm like, hang on a minute. It's Christmas. It's literally Christmas now. And you're banging some bird over the back of this, God knows what it was. and the room stunk, and I remember thinking, I was very good at defending my behaviours, because you have to. When you're failing at that kind of level, you have to an extent, psychologically defend them. But the next day, when I woke up on Christmas Day, and I've got a heaving hangover, and there's broken crack pipes all over the place and piles of Xanax and all that, I can remember looking around my room, and I thought, what, shouldn't there be other people here? Shouldn't there be children running around? Shouldn't I have a wife? Why? And I was asking myself these questions almost for the first time, and it was like, what am I doing? I'm just a bloke on his own, and I hadn't even considered it, because I lived through an era where they told us to do that, and I'm not blaming them. I still had choices, but
it's a disservice.
Yeah,
big disservice. Well, I think a lot of these things will just change if people are forced to rely on themselves. People don't invest in a pension; their children have their pension. So.
Yeah.
I think things will change. Would just change across the board if the welfare state stops and people have to fend for themselves, which people are pretty good at doing. Actually, most people can fend for themselves pretty well.
For sure.
And not everyone. You need a bit of charity. You need a bit of kindness and generosity. But if that happens, you see a massive change in.
Well, also you need a bit of intelligence. I mean, Haiti hasn't gone too well, and in fairness, you do need a bit of intelligence. But we've proven that we've had that in the past. When we built the world.
Just we lead the world. America is great insofar as it's English. That was said by Burke before the American Revolution. And countries like Scotland, they are great to the extent that they only became great when they said, well, we're going to become like the English.
You're losing me so many subscribers now. It was going so well. America, yes. Scotland. Gavin, Boby, it has been an absolute pleasure. I think this has been one of the best ones we've done. And I don't think that is a see you later, Shagrat. I don't think that is an accident. I think it's because we've both come to a very similar. I mean, I think you've been going down this particular path further than I have, longer than I have. I realised last week a couple of weeks ago, that you said things like this on Mark's stream. And I thought, Gavin's been on this one for a while now. And it's been absolutely amazing speaking to you. It really has.
Yeah, we see eye to eye. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Brilliant, man. How are you and yourself?
Yeah, very well. Yeah, in the pink. Busy, finding a Mosque application that I can't talk about right now. But
that's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. You, I'm being attacked from about 4 or 5 different sides. I've lost a lot of subscribers, so you might have lost a bit of some donations. I don't know.
No, very little. They're very loyal, very patient.
Good.
It hasn't been so active. Believe it or not, even the visitors have slowed down their applications for places of worship over the
because it used to be a doddle, and now it's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money, and they're not getting the results they used to.
Well, they're not allowed to meet up right now as well, so they're just putting. I think in a few months' time, you're going to see a real splurge of applications. And
if that happens, you'll have to get on here, and we'll do a 5-hour charity stream, and we'll get a load of money, and you can get that machine. Do you remember what you said to me? You said the Scrubs have allowed me to make a machine to prevent mosques being built, and I was like, no way, what, an actual machine? And you went, No, just people. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh yeah, clearly. Imagine there's a real machine. You sort of one end and just pushed it into the hearing. Nice one, Gaffney. Thanks for the cockle. That's always appreciated. Can't believe how much I spat when I said appreciated them, but I did just have a lug on my tea. But Gavin, we've all had. It's been an absolute pleasure. I want to read a quote to everyone to end the stream. I am gonna just. I'm just gonna give you Gavin's channel once again, because Gavin, like me, YouTube don't want you following him. They don't want you listening to what he has to say. Pardon?
No way.
No, of course they don't. You. I know, Moslab. It was mental. I tell you what I thought it was. Do you remember that? All aboard the Skylark, Mr. Dr. Snuffles and the Skylark or something. Yeah. It's not half of the brain works well, but the other half is completely fucked. Sorry, I'm trying to do less swearing, but I think I've done less in the stream as a whole. But yeah, an actual machine was just ridiculous. And I realised before Gavin answered what a ludicrous question it was. So when I saw his face, he was sort of like, no, I just mean, oh God, it was. Right, okay, where was I? Right, so Gavin Boby, no one wants you to watch his videos, so here's his there you go, it's in the chat. And listen, go and give him a subscription, even if you don't watch it or you don't like it. Your subscription will draw other people to it, and we need. This is how we have to work as a community at this level. We need to help people out like this. So just go and give it a subscription. But I would also say watch it, because if you enjoyed what we've been talking about tonight, which I have seen a lot of you say, you know, when I got the numbers, they were all very high. And just when I said the stream was finishing, so many people saying brilliant stream, that was a great stream, all that means the world to me. All that does mean the world to me. Formerly Paul, when did I snub you? Oh, subbed. Is that a snub machine? I can't believe it. Chrissy has snubbed me as well. Someone's got a snub machine. Good Lord. Mad Lizzie's unfollowed. What kind of machine is this? You know I love you, ST911. You couldn't do anything wrong. Well, maybe we could arrange something wrong. Yeah, I've been talking far too long. Right, so you've got Gavin's address there in the thing. Let me just do this. Hang on. So we've got a little bit of music for when we leave. Make that a bit bigger. Right, I'm going to read you. Not now I've taken it off the screen, I haven't. I just want to read you something that it seemed to me relevant to what we were talking about. And it's from the preface of Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil. And there's a lovely little story that when Heidegger, I think it was Heidegger, don't quote me on that, but Heidegger done a reading of Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil. And he read, in his reading, he read every single line, every line he used in his reading, except one. He left one line out, and it's the first line in the preface. And that first line is, supposing that truth is a woman, right? When Jacques Derrida, who's my favourite writer of all time, non-fiction, done his reading of Beyond Good and Evil, he only read that line. He left all the rest out and just read that line and wrote his whole thesis around supposing truth be a woman. slightly different translation. It was supposing truth be a woman, whereas this translation is supposing that truth is a woman. But I just want to read you this because it seemed relevant to the kind of, it's only short, to the kind of stuff we were talking about today. And it is really short, don't worry, you ain't going to get bored. Supposing that truth is a woman, what then? Is there not ground for suspecting that all philosophers, insofar as they have been dogmatists, have failed to understand women, that the terrible seriousness and clumsy inopportunity with which they have usually paid their address to truth have been unskilled and unseemly methods for winning a woman? Certainly, she has never allowed herself to be won, and at present, every kind of dogma stands with sad and discouraged mind, if indeed it stands at all. For there are scoffers who maintain that it has fallen, that all dogma lies on the ground, nay, more, that it is at its last gasp. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your donations. Gavin, you've been an absolute treat. I'm going to drop you out as soon as the music starts, and I will pick you an email. I'll ping you an email as soon as the music doesn't start. See you later, Gavin. Ta-da, mate. Ta-da. Ta-da. Any brilliant, Gavin, but this better start. Look at this, you see. When I try and do something for you, maybe I need to press play. I can still see you, Gavin. See you later, mate. I'll write you an email. Yeah, I was talking away to myself. Ed from Queen, should have, could have, would have. The married life and kids is not all that special. It teaches you how to share and gives you another perspective on life. Love you, Chris. Love you, Ed, too. But it's what we're here for, and I don't feel like I'm a real man. I don't think until you've had children, what are you? You're just surplus. You're just surplus. What are you doing? But it's a fair point. It's a fair point. Thank you, Scory, because I had said a lot more than that. I would advise you go and check out Gavin's channel because he goes into a lot of that stuff a lot deeper than me. And I was so impressed with you lot when I said between 1 and 10, how do you feel about this? Because this doesn't need Kai Moros's flamethrowers and dungeons. This doesn't need horrible things going on. And this is also, you know, Mark and Laura's communities are part of this. And, you know, you'll be surprised how quickly and how organically things can turn around. And can you imagine? Can you imagine? Gavin said a lovely thing at one point where he said people will start saying things like, well, just put your phone number in the email. Sorry, it's pathetic, really. When he said people will start saying, God, doesn't it feel like how we used to live? And that really touched me. Yeah, me too, William. I'm really overall, I'm really into all this. This is the clear pill. This is the one where you've seen through it all. And you lot were brilliant tonight. The donations, the things you were saying, the way you were joining in, the numbers. We had 280 at one point. And I guarantee we've had about, well, I can tell you actually. I will tell you. I can tell you. Give me 1 second. I'll tell you how many people watched that. Just if you're interested. It's because I don't want to go because it was a really positive stream. Because I care about Europe and I care about England and I care about the British Isles. And when I stumble upon a clear pill, I think that this stuff is interesting. 666 people watched that. So there you go. Yeah, agreed, Nick. So thank you all for coming, and I will see you all. Well, I don't know if a missus is coming over tomorrow, and I'm also trying to have a few more breaks. I'm sorry about having breaks, but there's something going wrong with me, and at my age, you can't. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm not a scared person, but you know, I like to listen to my body, and if I'm streaming. If I'm sleeping 14 hours, there's something going on. You know, there's something going on. Hang on, am I missing something? I don't know. Anyway, it's been a pleasure, people. The music's gone. I've got to go, or I'll just be sitting talking to you all night. See you later. Have a cracking night. Have a cracking evening, and I'll talk to you. I'll certainly do one stream tomorrow, unless the missus comes over, but I don't think she is. Ta-da, look after yourselves. Quack, quack, oops.